Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the source material to break down the incredibly high-stakes future of Africa's most populous nation. We're looking at a country with immense resources and unbelievable human capital, but as you'll see, it's also facing some profound structural challenges. Just take a look at this. Step into the energetic heart of Lagos, and you literally feel the dynamic pulse and the sheer scale of Nigeria. To give you an idea of the explosive growth we're talking about, Lagos went from a population of just 300,000 in 1950 to 15 million in 2018. It is a place of incredible entrepreneurial verve, but man, it is intensely crowded.
Now, what's really interesting is this staggering projection, 450 million. By 2050, Nigeria's population is projected to surge past that mark. That's going to make it the third most populous country on Earth, right behind India and China. And look, how Nigeria manages this boom, it won't just shape the African continent, it's going to send ripples through the entire global economy.
So, to understand how we get there, we're going to break down 5 key areas from the data: the Nigerian paradox, the demographic time bomb, governance and security, the education crisis, and finally, the paths to 2050. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Section 1, the Nigerian paradox.
On paper, this country is an absolute macroeconomic powerhouse. We're talking Africa's largest economy, the biggest crude oil exporter, and it sits on the continent's massive natural gas reserves. But here's where the paradox hits. The micro-reality, it's drastically different. 46.4% of Nigerians live in multidimensional poverty. That is 95 million people. To put that into perspective, that's more than the entire population of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, just struggling daily for food, clean water, and basic survival.
So you're probably wondering, why isn't all that national wealth trickling down? Well, take a look at the tax system. Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio sits at a staggeringly low 6%, compared to a 20% average across sub-Saharan Africa. Basically, the government is broke. Couple that severe lack of funds with deeply embedded corruption draining billions, and public infrastructure simply cannot be funded. Which brings us to the raw human numbers in Section 2, the demographic time bomb. Nigeria is currently right in the middle of a massive youth bulge. Nearly half of the entire population is under 15 years old, and the median age is literally just 18. This represents an entire generation that requires immense, immediate investments in health, schooling, and ultimately, jobs.
What this means is that right now, you have very few working adults supporting a massive number of kids. And even projecting out to 2050 on its current path, the ratio of working-age people to dependents is only going to improve to about 1.5. And that number? It's the key to unlocking or completely stalling future wealth. Now, if you follow development economics, you know that economies typically boom when they hit what's called a demographic dividend. But to get that accelerated growth, you need a ratio of at least 1.7 working adults for every dependent. The data shows Nigeria won't cross that magic threshold until almost 2060. Without a massive sprint to educate and employ these youths today, this incredible labor force could devolve into a demographic bomb of frustration, unemployment, and conflict.
Let's transition into the systemic hurdles preventing this breakthrough in Section 3, governance and security. The source material paints a picture of massive geographic polarity. Look at the northern states like Sokoto and Taraba. Over 87% of the population there lives in extreme poverty. But then you travel down to southern states like Delta or Lagos, and those poverty rates plummet into the single digits. It's not just an income gap, it's a profound fracture in the country's foundation.
And these regional divides, they're dangerously amplified by severe, multidimensional security threats. You've got the devastating Boko Haram and ISWAP insurgency in the northeast. Then in the northwest and central zones, it's criminal gangs, kidnapping, and deadly farmer-herder conflicts. Meanwhile, the southeast is dealing with emerging separatist agitations. This violence fractures supply chains, destroys agriculture, and completely drains the government's already limited resources. This directly bleeds into Section 4, the education crisis.
10.5 million. That is the number of kids currently out of school in Nigeria. It's actually the highest number anywhere on the globe. Just to put that into perspective, that's more than the entire population of London just sitting outside the classroom. The system is buckling under the weight of the exploding youth population, and tragically, 60% of those left behind are girls. And that geographic fracture we talked about earlier, it directly dictates a child's future. Girls in the South are more than twice as likely to attend school as their peers in the North.
In those northern communities, deep-seated cultural stereotypes, crushing poverty, and the very real terror of mass school abductions by armed groups keep young women locked out of the classroom entirely. Even for those who actually do make it into a classroom, the educational pipeline is leaking badly. Sure, over 85% of kids complete primary school, but by the time you reach the tertiary level, that completion rate absolutely plummets to a dismal 5.3%. Dilapidated infrastructure and a severe lack of funding create this massive bottleneck, where only about 1 in 10 applicants actually gets a spot in higher education.
So, how do we fix this? Let's look at Section 5, the path to 2050. The source material doesn't just leave us with doom and gloom. It actually outlines an aggressive but realistic sequential roadmap for reform. Step 1, decisively upgrade security capabilities to stabilize the nation. Then, digitize the tax system to stamp out corruption and actually capture public revenue. To manage the population boom, the government has to partner with religious leaders on family planning and really champion female education. Finally, economically speaking, Nigeria must fix its oil refineries to kill its reliance on petrol subsidies and drastically diversify its exports into manufacturing and agriculture.
The main takeaway here is that this dire current trajectory is absolutely not set in stone. The text notes that with aggressive but reasonable policy interventions, Nigeria could have a significantly brighter future. If it can execute these bold, structural reforms, it possesses the immense natural wealth and human capital required to completely rewrite its destiny.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we want to leave you with this high-stakes crossroads. Will Nigeria harness its explosive growth to become a titan of the global economy by 2050? Or will it remain the epicenter of world poverty? The policy choices made today won't just decide the fate of 450 million Nigerians, they are literally going to shape the future of our world.